What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Hope you're all doing well. It's Sunday, June 9th. We're going to be going over the New England Patriots fantasy football projections for 2024. I'm working on the AFC East right now. I've already uploaded the Bills, the Dolphins. We're doing the Patriots today, and I might squeak out the Jets later tonight. My goal is for the month of June, I'm trying to get a 15 to 20 minute video for each team out based on my preliminary projections. And what's nice is I have the projections done. I can, tinker them here and there throughout the weeks leading up through, to training camp into August and just making sure I can do the edits and things like that. So we're going to hop into a screen share here. If you guys want to check out the other videos, I'll probably have them, in a card or linked in the description or something like that. But New England Patriots, man, we got the new era of post Bill Belichick here. We're looking at Maye, the new head coach, and Alex Van Pelt, the offensive coordinator, which should be interesting. I've always liked Alex Van Pelt. He kind of made his name working with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, but he's got a nice history of being a quarterback's offensive coach, starting with Buffalo in 2006. Was the quarterback's coach in 2008, offensive coordinator and QB coach in 2009, worked with Tampa Bay for a little bit, but he was kind of in that sweet run of the Aaron Rodgers era in Green Bay from 2012 to 2017. So some really good seasons there. Cincinnati Bengals QB coach, offensive coordinator for the Browns, OC and QB coach for the Browns, and now he is the offensive coordinator for the new era of New England Patriots football. So what can we expect from this team? Let's just kind of do a little review of what has happened in the past few seasons. Of course, they've had Bailey Zappi, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Brian Hoyer, and then back then, again, Mac Jones and Brian Hoyer for the last few seasons, Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham. It's been a purgatory since Tom Brady left, and they just have not been able to turn over at that position and get anything out of it. And the Patriots have honestly kind of messed up the last couple of years, going with no offensive coordinator back in the 2022 season. I think that was, they used Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. It just didn't work out. They tried Bill O'Brien last year, but it was very clear that this team had gotten stale. We needed to try something new. So here we are with Maye, Alex Van Pelt. Last year was interesting. I mean, they ran the ball okay. They did not score a lot of touchdowns, only 25 offensive touchdowns, 21 interceptions. So, there's a reason why Mac Jones isn't there. It was just time to move on, and hopefully he can kind of find himself as a backup. I think he's down in Jacksonville now. But it was a really rough year, 63% completion percentage for this offense, under 3,400 passing yards, 6.09 yards per attempt, only 16 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. And again, they ran the ball okay enough, about 1,600 yards, 3.92 yards per carry, nine rushing touchdowns, which is pretty low. It was just, this was one of the worst offenses in the league last year. Only 4 wins. I would like to think that the bottom's in, and they're going to get better QB play, drafting Drake Maye and bringing in some offensive weapons here, which I think turned out okay. They brought in Jalen Polk, Javon Baker. They brought in Antonio Gibson from free agency. They drafted Jaheim Bell, potential future tight end for them. I like what they did. And then they paired Jacoby Brissett with Drake Maye. So we might see Brissett start the year, lead into Drake Maye a few games into the year. We'll see. But either way, there's not much to recap. I mean, we know it was really, really bad last year. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was in 2023. Best case scenario is this offense is probably like their 2022 season, where they threw 66%. They threw about 3,800 yards. They had 19 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, and they ran in some touchdowns, 12 touchdowns. I think you're looking probably for something in that range from this team. And if you're unfamiliar with how I do my projections, I need to look at the passing attempts and the rushing attempts and try to figure things out. But usually that helps when I have consistency from a team that's had the same offensive coordinator or the coach for the last few years. Now we're projecting something completely new. So I'm a little unsure on what I want to do with the Patriots here, but we'll kind of break down starting with Drake Maye and the passing game, Jacoby Brissett and Drake Maye, because I do think we're going to see Brissett start a handful of games. Now, I gave Brissett 145 passing attempts. That's roughly 5 games. I'm projecting, maybe the month of September, we'll see the switch in October to Drake Maye, something like that, unless Jacoby Brissett's winning games. And, they're, as long as they're 3-2, 4-2, 4-4, something like that, they'll probably keep running out Jacoby Brissett. But as soon as the calls come for Drake Maye, we're going to see him in the starting lineup. So I have about 5 games for Brissett, 4 games for Maye. I'm giving Drake Maye about 64.5% completion percentage, which is a little bit high, but I think this offensive system is going to really emphasize the tight ends, the running backs, getting the ball out quickly. The Patriots don't have a true outside receiver. They have a lot of nice short and intermediate receivers there. So Demario Douglas, I think can be a nice player. They have some outside guys in Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Polk, who I think can be, some big playability players, but we're going to see a lot of dinking and dunking to Rhamondre, Gibson, Hunter Henry, and then, Demario Douglas and a few other receivers there. But I like Drake Maye's ability to get the ball out quickly. Hopefully they can teach him to not, try and do too much on his own and force things. But I have him going for about 2,800 yards, 7.23 yards per attempt, 16 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Again, I got him starting about 12 games. So that's, about 1.25 touchdowns per game, something like that. So not lighting it up, but I do think he's going to have some sneaky value in the rushing game. So 45 rushing attempts, about 200 rushing yards and a touchdown and a fumble there. So I do like Drake Maye quite a bit in this offense. At 181 fantasy points, I'm going to open up a calculator real quick. We'll call it 181 divided by 12 points. That's going to bring him about 15 points per game, which is pretty solid. I do think he's got QB2 potential at some point down the stretch, where he comes out in my whole QB ranking system. He's going to be down here just because he's not starting all the games, or he's right next to let me actually filter here by standard. Let's see. Drake Maye he's my QB 32. So, just not being able to trust him to start right away. I think, again, it's June 9th. If he does start week 1, I'll probably move him up in my rankings and tinker some of the numbers. But I think for now, he is a guy that you're not going to draft and redraft. You can take him in best ball because he's going to play at some point this year. And down the stretch in best ball, that's when you want a rookie on your team playing for you. But for redraft, he's probably not draftable. In super flex leagues, you can grab him maybe as your QB3 and just hold on to him and see when he gets into the game. And when he does play, I do think he's got low end QB2 upside, somewhere in that QB 20 to 24 range if he's averaging 15 points per game. So that's where I'm at with Drake Maye in the passing game. It's tough because there's so much guesswork with this, and I'm trying to kind of just be a balance. I don't want to be too high or too low. I'm trying to just, be even with my expectations. And I do think that for redraft, Jacoby Brissett, he might be startable for the first handful of games while he's playing. He might be a low-end QB2 option. He's undraftable in best ball leagues for me because as the season goes on, we're not going to see him play 10, 12 games. We're going to see Drake Maye play 10 to 12 games. So undraftable for me in best ball. But I'm excited. I think he's a good leader for Drake Maye. And I think this offense has a chance to rebound, not significantly from last year, just again, because there's a lot of moving parts here, a lot of young pieces. But I do expect it to kind of turn the corner and start to prep for the 2025 season when then they can really build around Drake Maye and make sure he has all the pieces he needs. So that's where we're at with the quarterbacks. The running game is going to be everything for this team. As we shift to the running backs here, you have Rhamondre, Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, Kevin Harris, Jermichael Hasty, and Keyshawn Vaughn. Last year, Rhamondre was in and out of the lineup, but Ezekiel Elliott was a really nice rock, and they used him a ton. He's gone. There's roughly, between the two of them, they had 340 carries. They also had 116 targets. I don't think we can just plug those numbers in because, again, it's a new coach, new offensive coordinator. But I do expect the offense, again, to run through these running backs and kind of be the focal point and the stem of everything that they do. So I think Rhamondre in for a bounce back year. He's actually a guy that I find myself wanting more of in best ball, as I've probably drafted over 100 teams already for the various websites, but I need more Rhamondre Stevenson because he's in a really sweet spot in like the 8th round range of PPR leagues. And I do think, bringing in Gibson, they're going to run the ball with Stevenson and probably throw to Gibson a little bit more, but Stevenson still has great pass catching ability. So I have him at about 215 carries, 905 rushing yards, 4.2 yards per carry. 6 rushing touchdowns and a fumble. And then, he's getting, 1 to 2 targets per game in the passing game. Maybe he spikes with 3 or 4 catches in a game every now and then. But I think that passing down role is going to go to Gibson. And as it stands right now, I've got about 171 PPR points going to Rhamondre. Let's see where he comes out in my RB rankings. And we'll also look at Gibson while we're here. I got Rhamondre at RB 28. And honestly, that's, again, I kind of mentioned my projections. I don't want to be too high or too low on this Patriots team. I'm trying to be very even balanced. And right now, they're basically saying Rhamondre is going to be a low-end RB2. He's down here at RB 28. There's going to be a few guys that are moving up and down or getting hurt or things like that. So he's going to perform as an RB2 for you. He's ideal in best balls. If you kind of wait for a running back, you can pound someone in the 7th, 8th round and come away with two quality running backs for your duo. So I want more Stevenson. He's a good player. A lot of things just didn't go well last year, and just kind of the the stink and the hanging around of Bill Belichick. I think we're looking at a clean slate for this team, and I think Rhamondre is going to be a good player. So RB28 for him. If I scroll on down a little bit, Gibson is RB43 for me. I've got him at 95 rushing attempts, 6-7 rushing attempts per game, but he's going to be used as a passer. I have him probably at 3 or 4 targets per game. So I have him at 35 catches, 45 targets, 255 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And I want to see Gibson succeed. I've always liked Antonio Gibson's game, but now he's in a spot where he can be featured as a passing weapon, and he's out of the Washington system. So I like both guys. Gibson's really cheap, man. I think you can get him really late. He's going to be a redraft guy for me on a lot of my benches, because if anything happens to Stevenson, they're probably going to give Gibson the next man up kind of carry. So he has that built into it, and he's also got a weekly 4 built into it, where if he's catching 3 balls a game for 20, 30 yards, that's a quick 6, 7, 8 points. And if he does add things as a rusher, he's looking at that 8 to 10 point floor, I think, in a full PPR system. So I like both guys, their values right now. After that, Kevin Harris, JaMychal Hasty, Keyshawn Vaughn. I mean, if those guys are being used, something happened pretty badly to Stevenson and Gibson. So we'll wait and see. But those are the primary backups there. So I'm starting to think I want to be more invested in this rushing game. I think they've got a lot of opportunity, and a young team, man, they're going to lean on this run quite a bit. So continue to draft Gibson and Stevenson when you can. And then we get to the questions, man. Let's talk about this wide receiver room. Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, KJ Osborne, and Juju Smith-Schuster. On paper, it's a lot of kind of nothing, but I thought Demario Douglas was pretty good for them last year. He comes in, I think he was an undrafted player, if I remember correctly, but he played well. He was the team's leading receiver last year with 561 yards, 49 catches on 79 targets, no touchdowns, but he also showed the ability to run the football too. I think they're going to like using him as kind of their chain mover. Third downs, if you need someone on 3rd and 6, it's probably looking for Douglas on the first read. So I have him leading the team in targets this year, 64 receptions, 100 targets, 731 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I probably want to move up that rushing attempt total a little bit. I have him at 5. He had 8 last year, but we're looking at a guy that I think can just soak up targets and be one of the first reads. You have Kendrick Bourne on the outside, who's coming off an ACL tear. I'm very unsure on Kendrick Bourne. I don't draft him a lot. I don't like taking guys off of serious knee injuries, and especially when they're that old. He's in his 30s. I think Kendrick Bourne, maybe he's not 30 yet, but he's a good player. But again, coming off a serious knee injury, unclear depth chart, and a rookie quarterback, I just probably not drafting Kendrick Bourne. He was great last year though when he was playing, and it wouldn't surprise me if he comes back and he plays really well. That's the type of profile I don't like to gamble on. Older player, ACL injury, rookie quarterback. That's a lot of red check marks. But I have him at 60 catches, 90 targets, 705 yards, and 4 touchdowns. In theory, he is, I believe, the leading fantasy receiver for this team. Or he's right up there with Douglas, but those are going to be the 2 primary guys. And then I'm honestly excited about the rookies, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. I think these guys could hop Kendrick Bourne and be the primary receiver, and that's what we have to watch for. OTAs are happening right now, but at end of July and into training camp in August, I'm watching Jalen Polk. I'm watching Javon Baker. I think one of these guys could emerge as the true number 1 kind of downfield threat, and we'll see. I like Polk a little bit better. They spent a high 2nd round pick on him, 43 receptions, 75 targets for me, 535 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's a good rookie season. We could be talking a lot about Jalen Polk in 2025. But again, we need to see how he looks in training camp and if he can kind of build any drumbeat or steam leading into the season. I think Javon Baker's also a good player. I have him at 38 receptions, 65 targets, 505 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, as I'm sitting here, I kind of want to go down and tweak this and move some of Kendrick Bourne's numbers to Polk and Baker. I think they're going to be on the field a lot more earlier than Bourne will be. So we'll see. They still have KJ Osborne and Juju Smith-Schuster there, so I can't say those guys are nothing. We'll see if Juju makes the team. They did pay him a decent amount, but these guys are not fantasy relevant. So for me, the receivers, you can take Demario Douglas. I think he's the safe bet to lead the team in receptions this year. You could take a late round flyer on Bourne, but I've been targeting Polk and Baker as the guys with the unknown hidden upside that could be the wide receiver 1 for this team. That'll do it for receivers. I think tight end, it's pretty clear it's Hunter Henry. They tried Jonnu Smith, they tried Mike Gesicki, and now we're going forward with Hunter Henry. I have him at 44 receptions, 70 targets, 465 yards, and 4 TDs. He's going to be, he's going to be the tight end that's like, okay, fine, I'll take him and he's going to catch a few touchdowns. He's going to have some boom games. He's going to be a security blanket for Drake Maye on some crucial situations. He's still a good tight end. He's getting older, but I think he's going to be the perfect tight end in this system, whether it's Brissett or Maye. I think he's a guy that's going to be relied upon, especially earlier in the year. Now, I really like the rookie that they took, Jacoby out of Florida State. He's a really fun athletic profile. He could be the future tight end one here. So in dynasty leagues, if you want to pick him up at the end of your drafts or pick him up off the waiver wire, keep an eye on him. He's another player. So you got Polk, Baker, and Jacoby. I'm watching these guys heavily in July and August to see how their training camp reports are going. But for me, Hunter Henry's been a nice tight end, 2 target in best balls. For redraft, we're probably not going to be wanting to draft him unless you go 0 tight end. He'll probably be a waiver wire guy that you can stream here and there. But it wouldn't surprise me, man. Like if he's the leading receiver on this team for Drake Maye, that wouldn't surprise me at all. So I don't mind taking pulls on Henry. Keep an eye on Jacoby. And that's it, man. I mean, it's really tough because this is not a team that you really want to be heavily invested in for fantasy, but I do think that they are headed in the right direction. I think Drake Maye can be very good. You still have Rhamondre Stevenson under contract. I think they signed Gibson to a 2-year deal. I can't remember exactly. But there's some pieces here. Douglas, Polk, Baker, Jacoby. We could be talking about this team in 2025 as like a sneaky upside offense. So we'll watch for that. I'm looking forward to watching the Patriots this year. I think just Drake Maye's talent level overall is an exciting thing to watch. So we'll see. But that's it for me on the New England Patriots. Again, I've already covered the Dolphins and the Bills. You guys can check those out. I think I'm going to probably drop the Jets later tonight. And then over the course of the week, we'll start pumping out the NFC East. So I'm doing the AFC East, NFC East, and we'll kind of keep moving along here. So thank you guys so much for your time. If you have comments, questions, concerns, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you are new. It helps the channel grow. And yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for checking this out and share it, like it, all that good stuff. Help us grow. Peace.